Christi here with Little Salty Homesteader. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is May 1st, so I am here bringing you your May monthly garden checklist for your North Texas vegetable garden. Now, Texas is a huge state, but a lot of this stuff will actually apply throughout most of the rest of the state, all the way down into Houston and over starting to get into West Texas and stuff. So if you are from Texas, hopefully this checklist will help you out in your garden this month. All right, so before I start, I like to tell you guys my sources that I use to compile this list. That way you know I'm not just making it up off the top of my head. So first of all, I use Neil Sperry's book, Lone Star Gardening, I think it is called. He is an excellent source of information for gardening in this really hot, humid, weird state. The other source that I use is Dallas Garden School. She is relatively close to where I am located, so her planting dates will align very closely against mine. And then last, I use my own seedtime.us account, which is a website that helps you schedule out all your seed starting, your transplanting, your direct sowing, any sort of maintenance or like cultivation type tasks that you might need to do, and it's free. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this list. For your shopping list this month, it is relatively short. I like to get that out of the way early on because if you're like me, you don't want to spend a whole lot of money, but sometimes it's necessary. So the things that you might need to procure this month include fertilizer, mulch, and then if you're gonna start a fall garden, go ahead and start sourcing those seeds for that fall garden. There's a ton of online seed stores out there that have fantastic quality seeds and a bazillion different varieties, so just search around. And for your fertilizer and mulch, go ahead and pick up what it is that you typically like to use if you have not mulched already. If you have mulched, then you don't need to buy that, but fertilizer you kind of need to keep on hand throughout the entire growing season. So your planting list for the month of May, it starts to really heat up in May here in Texas. So the stuff that you're going to be direct sowing out is going to be the ridiculously heat tolerant items. So that direct sown list includes black-eyed peas, okra, corn. You can go ahead and plant cucumbers. Keep in mind they might be bitter by the time they're producing. You can also plant out squash, melons, pumpkin, zucchini, and then if you have sweet potato slips, get those in the ground this month too. For transplanting, you can go ahead and transplant more eggplants, peppers, and then your sunflowers and zinnias if you started those inside. So for maintenance tasks, that's going to be a little bit heftier this month compared to last month, because your summer garden should be planted at this point. You probably have weeds, you're probably starting to see pest pressure, you're probably starting your regular fertilizer regimen. So there's quite a bit of stuff that you're going to want to take care of this month. So first of all, those tomato plants, you want to prune off any diseased leaves as soon as you start seeing them. You want to slow down the spread of any sort of fungal disease before you need to introduce any sort of fungicides or anything. If you are growing basil in your garden, pinch off any flowers that you see. That's going to encourage the basil plant to bush out instead of getting super tall, and you're going to end up with more basil to harvest for all of your different basil uses. If you have marigolds, zinnias, and or calendula growing in your garden, go ahead and deadhead any spent blooms. What that means is if you have flowers that have bloomed and they're kind of on their way out, cut them off. That's going to encourage more bloom growth on those flowers. Now that doesn't work for flowers like sunflowers because they kind of bloom once and then that's the end of it. But the other flowers, go ahead and deadhead the spent blooms so you can encourage more flowers to go ahead and grow. Like I said, you might start to see some pest pressure this month. If you see caterpillars on any of your plants, go ahead and start treating with BT. This is a bacteria that essentially will kind of starve the caterpillars from the inside out. It turns off that mechanism that tells them that they're hungry or thirsty. So, and it is an organic solution for your garden if you are an organic gardener. You'll want to treat your plants with the BT either early in the morning or late in the evening. You don't want to do it in the heat of the day when the sun is just blasting down on those plants. If you're growing squash, you are going to want to daily inspect your plants for any type of eggs. That includes squash bug eggs and or squash vine borer eggs. You're going to inspect the entire plant, the underside of the leaf, all along the stem, and you're going to want to pick those off and dispose of them immediately. As far as the squash bug eggs, some folks will burn them with a lighter or something and they pop like popcorn. That can be really time consuming if you have a lot of squash plants out there. So I will literally just tear that part of the leaf off and throw it in the garbage. I want to get rid of it as soon as I possibly can. You're also going to want to make sure you are maintaining that fertilizing schedule. So in my garden, I alternate between liquid and granulated fertilizer. Every 2 weeks, I am applying one or the other. You can do the same thing in your garden. Obviously, if it has been really rainy weather, like it has here, you might want to up the amount of fertilizer that you are applying. But otherwise, if it's normal weather conditions, just as long as you have a regular schedule going and your plants are growing healthy and lush, then you can just maintain the same sort of schedule. If you have grass in your lawn like I do, you will also want to fertilize your grass with a high nitrogen fertilizer. We just use one of those spreaders and just kind of walk through the yard back and forth, spreading it out. It is time for us to do it again because it has been about a month since the last time we fertilized. If you're growing fruits like peaches and plums and your trees have set peaches and plums, you're going to want to prune those trees to where your fruits are 5 to 6 inches apart. If you had an abundant fruit set, you want to make sure that there's plenty of room for those fruits to continue to grow without bogging down the tree or introducing any sort of funky diseases or anything. If you're growing blackberries, this is the month to tip prune those the new canes on the blackberries. That's going to encourage the plant to branch out and will keep it a more compact size instead of becoming all wily and long and wild. Now I know that this seems crazy because we are just getting into May, but one thing the gardener does is always looks forward to the next season. So if you are planning on starting a fall garden this year, go ahead and start making that plan. There's nothing wrong with getting ahead of the game. Create a list of crops that you want to grow. Typically in Texas, the crops that do really well in fall are going to be the brassica type crops. So broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale, collard greens, mustard greens, lettuces. You want to plant those whenever the temperatures are cooling off instead of whenever they're warming up. You can also plant more tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants in the fall so that you kind of get a fall bumper crop of those if your spring and summer planted ones kind of fizzle out in our super hot summers. If you are going to be planting out tomato, eggplant, and peppers in your fall garden, go ahead and start those seeds at the end of this month, the month of May. That way you can transplant them out at the beginning of July. Okay, and then other routine garden tasks that you're going to be doing on a pretty regular basis. It's not like a one-shot done thing for the month. You're going to want to continue trellising your tomatoes and or your vining crops. So if you're growing vining cucumbers, you're going to want to make sure they have some sort of structure that provides support for them as they continue to grow and vine out. You are going to want to regularly walk through your garden and pull any weeds that you see. I recently put straw mulch in all of my raised beds and some of my containers, and some of the straw mulch has sprouted little bits of grass. So I need to go through and pull all of that before it gets too long and crazy. If your garden starts rolling in with some sort of harvest, make sure you are keeping up with that regularly. You don't want to lose all your hard work to some sort of birds or other critters coming in and wiping out your tomatoes before you've gotten to harvest any of them. So make sure you're present in the garden, checking for ripening fruits, checking to see if your peppers have reached the mature size that you want them at. Probably by the end of the month, you might see your onions and garlic getting ready to be harvested. So just harvest regularly. And then because this is Texas and you can't exactly predict the weather other than it's going to get hot. If it does get super hot, go ahead and consider adding in shade cloth to sections of your garden that are going to be blasted with full sun. Even though a lot of these plants say full sun tolerant, that doesn't always mean full Texas sun tolerant. So 40% or 50% shade cloth could be a good option to cool those temperatures down on those plants so that you can prolong the life of them. And then if you have not applied your mulch in your garden spaces yet, go ahead and do that. It is a great way to insulate the roots of the plant to keep them from burning up. It will also help retain moisture so you're watering less. Now granted, it has been really rainy lately, so we haven't had to water a ton at all, but as we reach those summer months, it's going to start getting drier. The last thing that you're going to want to do is take any photos of any issues that you're seeing in your garden, any beautiful plants, any bountiful harvests, anything that just brings you some sort of interest that you want to be able to remember. But that is it for this task list for the month of May. If you found this video helpful and you want to continue to see more checklists throughout the year, then please like, subscribe, and comment. Otherwise, until next time, go find a way to get those garden manicures. Bye!